This video discusses how to enter array formulas in Excel. First, let's start with a simple question in Excel. We have a sales record with different products, and this is the unit price, and this is the number of units sold. So our question is to calculate the total revenue of these sales, right? So normally, with a regular formula, we can do for each row or for each product, we can do unit price times quantity, so that's the revenue for that product, and then we can do this for all the 4 products, so we have the separate revenues. Finally, we can sum up these revenues to get the total revenue, right? So that's a typical approach. Another way to enter these formulas in Excel is to use array formula. Let's see how we do that. So you can see that each cell here, each row here, represents the multiplication of 2 cells, right? So this multiply this, and then the next one would be this multiply this, right? So instead of entering each cell one by one, we can enter all these 4 cells together by saying we want to multiply B2 to B5, multiply these 4 elements to C2 to C5. Okay, multiply these 4 elements to these 4 elements. And Excel will understand that what you mean is you want to multiply B2 to C2, B3 to C3, B4 to C4, and so forth. Okay, so they will do this element by element operation. And there are 2 important things in entering formula this way. One is that you have to first of all select the range where you want to enter your formula, right? So here we want to enter this formula for this entire column here. So we first select the column and then start entering the formula like this. Okay, and also after you're done entering your formula, instead of just hitting enter as we normally do, in this case we need to do Control Shift Enter. Okay, so now we have filled up these 4 cells altogether. And if you look at this formula bar here, you can see that because we have an array formula, a signature here is that you have this curly brackets around the formula. Okay, notice that you cannot just go in there and enter these curly brackets directly. You have to do Control Shift Enter to get there. And the other thing is, since this is an array formula, so these 4 cells are controlled by the same formula. So you cannot change these cells one by one. Okay, unlike in this case. In this case, you can change any of these formulas individually. But here, if you want to change the formulas, you have to change all of them together. And then you can sum them up. Okay, you can sum them up in this cell here. And of course, because we're using array formula, one of the benefits is that you don't have to actually fill up this column to do the sum. You can put this array formula inside the sum. So to do that, we'll do sum, and then we put the array formula inside. So the array formula is B2 to B5 times C2 to C5. Okay? And again, you have to do Control Shift Enter. So this way, your sum here does not depend on this extra column. Okay? So that saves space. So let's look at a different example using array formula. So here we have some sales record, and we have employee names, and we have a date of sale and a sale amount. Okay. So if I want to calculate the total sale for each employee, what I can do is, from what we learned in the past, we can do the SUMIFS function. For example, if I want to calculate the total sales by Mary, I can do SUMIFS. Remember, the sum range is, because we're summing over the sales, so sum range of sales, And criteria range, criteria here, we're basing our criteria on employee name, so that's the employee column. And the actual criteria is employee equal to Mary, which is in A14. And I'm going to drag my formula. I'm going to fix this, and I'm going to fix this. Okay, I'm fixing these two columns. So this way we can get the total sales for each employee using the SUMIFS function. Okay. So using array formula, we can achieve the same goal. So the idea is that I would like to build a column here that extract the sales, but only for a particular employee. So let's see how we do that. So I only want this column to show the sales made by Mary. So remember, we learned how to do this using the if function. So we're using if. The condition here is that the employee name of this row is equal to Mary. Okay. So I can do A2 equal to Mary. And if A2 is indeed equal to Mary, then I can show the sales. Otherwise, I choose to show nothing. Okay. And if you drag this formula down, you can see that the if function will only show, because we use the if function, so this column only shows the sales made by this particular employee. Okay. And we can also do this thing. So remember, this is still a regular formula. Okay, so we enter this formula in a cell and drag it down. So we can also do the same thing using array formula. Okay, so remember, we need to select the whole column first, and then start typing if. So before, when we do this cell by cell, it was A2 equal to Mary, and then A3 equal to Mary, A4 equal to Mary, right, for each row. So now we're combining them together. We say A2 to A10 equal to Mary. So Excel will understand that the first cell will use A2, the second cell here will use A3, A4, A5, and so forth. And if those are true, then I want to display C2 to C10. Okay, again, this will mean that the first display C2 in this cell, C3 in the next cell, C4 and C5 and so forth. Otherwise, display nothing. Okay, Control Shift Enter. So this way we have an array formula. Just pay attention to the curly bracket here. Okay, now I would like to put this column and the sum function inside the same cell here. Okay. So I'll do sum and then type the formula for this column here. That'll be if A2 to A10, I'd like to fix that, equal to Mary, which is in A14. Then I will display C2 to C10, fix that, otherwise display nothing. Okay. So here, inside the sum bracket, so the if function here inside generates this column here, and the outside sum function sum over the values in this column. Okay. Remember, we have to do Control Shift Enter, okay. And then we can drag our formula down. So we can also use the same approach to calculate the largest sale made by each representative or the minimum sale made by each representative. For example, if I want to calculate the largest sale, then I can just copy this formula, Control C, escape, Control V, and instead of using the sum function, I can use the maximum function. Control Shift Enter, Control D. And use same thing. We can use C, use the minimum function min, Control Enter, sorry, Control Shift Enter, Control Shift Enter, and then we can drag our formula down. Okay, so in the previous examples, we discussed situations where some operations, such as multiplication, addition, they're not designed for to handle multiple entries, right? So we kind of force them to handle multiple entries at the same time, right? But in Excel, you also have other functions that's designed to handle multiple entries. For example, in Excel, we have a function called transpose, right? So say we have a table like this. This is a 5-row, 2-column table, right? So now I want to change that into a 2-row, 5-column table. Right? To do that, you can use the transpose function in Excel. So we can first of all select the range we want to put the transpose table in. So it should be 2-row and 5 columns, right? And we select the range. As usual, start typing function here is transpose function, and then we select the input data, and now we hit Control Shift Enter. So you can see that now the first column becomes the first row, the second column becomes the second row.